Evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It's 8 p.m. Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Hello and thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, you will see it. Queer News Tonight is supported by viewers like you. We are part of the partnership between Happening Out Television Network and Hotspots Magazine. Hotspots is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience. We bring you the best of LGBTQ plus news, entertainment, and support of our community.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. Let's welcome anchor FayWhat. She's a radio and television personality and has a popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate and owner of Fay's Fur Family. Also, make sure to catch the FayWhat Show, the first LGBTQ plus morning show, Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern online or your smart television. Good evening, Fay.
Good evening, everyone. And hey, if you missed the FayWhat Show this Monday morning, you can still watch it at any time. You missed Venus Delight, okay? Venus Delight from RuPaul's Drag Race was in bed with me, and she had shade on everybody.
Including RuPaul.
Including RuPaul. I was like, bitch, you crazy. Anyway, make sure that you check it out when you
She's
can.
She's now out back in a trash container.
Next up, let's welcome anchor John Hayden. John's been a journalist for 27 years and now works for several South Florida outlets, including SFGN as community editor. Ooh, congratulations. Covering politics, art, and philanthropic organizations. Much of his career was spent as a celebrity journalist, covering the stupidity and scandals of Hollywood. John's interviewed nearly every big name in TV, movies, and music. Let's try it. J-Lo?
Yep.
Elton John?
Yes.
Mariah Carey?
No.
There you go, then you have it. So change all this crap, it's a lie.
We said big names.
Oh.
You should have said, I don't know her.
All right, or like, who's that? Welcome, John.
Thank you so much, Faye, my queen. Now, let's welcome anchor Kal Gajraj. Kal is a communications executive and adjunct professor. He was also honored with a Bronze Telly Award for his work as an anchor with the Happening Out Television Network. Good evening, Kal. You know, I once won the Buckeye Newshawk Award.
Oh,
so.
Nice.
It's all about you.
But you don't have a telly.
I don't.
Let's welcome anchor Scott Galvin. He's the executive director of Safe Schools South Florida, providing a safe space for LGBTQ plus youth. A member of the North Miami City Council, the longest serving LGBTQ plus legislator in the state of Florida, and he sits on the board of directors for AIDS Healthcare Foundation and volunteers with the Florida LGBTQ Democratic Caucus. Good evening, Scott.
Good evening. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Wednesday, June 22nd.
Well, we begin by querying up the courts. The Supreme Court rules taxpayers will fund anti-LGBTQ plus religious schools. Maine is a very rural state. As such, there are areas that do not have public schools in place. For children living in these areas not covered by the public school system, parents can choose to send their children to nearby districts, or they can choose to send the kids to schools that have a tuition, and the tuition will be paid by the state. In a recent case that argued religious schools should be exempt from this policy was ruled on yesterday by the Supreme Court. The court found that religious schools could not exempt from this policy. Justice Roberts stated that if Maine opposed funding religious schools, that they should build more public schools. In her dissent, Justice Sotomayor wrote, quote, this court continues to dismantle the wall of separation between church and state that the framers fought to build, end quote.
You know, and I'm not a lawyer, but from what I understand, this isn't going to mean that the state like Florida will have to pay for your kids' Catholic school tuition if they want to go, because there is a viable public school in the area. So it seems like this is going to be really affecting rural states more and more. But that said, it's interesting that what they did, there's 5 freedoms guaranteed in the First Amendment, and they tied 2 of them together, religion and expression in this. So it really concerns me that this is the road they're going down, that expression that favors religions will be favored by the government ultimately.
Interesting. I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on television. And I agree with you. This is exactly what this ruling means. It means that the Supreme Court has tilted to religious rights over civil rights. And for constitutional protection freedoms that have to do with class or privacy, basically, I think we're getting ready to see the first blow that the court has made its decision, and that they are going to decide in religious rights over everything else. And as a result, everything that comes and flows out of rights protection for LGBT will be set aside as second.
Wow. So what happens to the LGBTQ plus kids that have to go to those schools?
And they will just have to, because the big issue in this ruling is that the state pays for anti-LGBTQ institutions, schools that are anti-LGBT, could say, don't say gay, could preach against in a religious school, against the LGBTQ community, and the state still must pay for it. That's the bigger issue to the question that you just asked. And it is an ominous warning to where the Supreme Court is going to go next.
And I think it's a precedent that will last a generation. Kids are going to grow up thinking that, of course, religious rights trump everything else. Isn't that the way it's supposed to be? Yeah. Freedom of religion. And so it's going to be really hard to roll that back in the future.
You know, one other interesting thing to that point is I've read several comments today that I thought were illustrative. The only other places in the world that you see some interpretation like this, you would not see this in Western Europe, other Western civilization, Western democratic systems. Where you would see something like this is in autocracy countries, Russia, China, you would see it. And then the other major place in the world that you would see it is places that are like in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, etc., where religious rights trump everything else, and you will follow our religious decision making, and that's a step in this direction that we've made here in the United States of America by the Supreme Court of the United States of America.
Let's move on by queering up drag culture. Drag stories in We're Here explore human rights issues. Watch this.
Hi, we're here.
Yeah, ain't trying to be cool like you. Wobbling around in your high heel shoes.
Where the gays at?
I'm a bitch, I'm a boss. I'm a bitch and a boss. I'm a shine like gloss. I'm a bitch.
We're back, baby.
Imagine being in town and seeing no reflection of yourself.
I know like certain areas are gonna present straight.
People shouldn't make you feel like you have to apologize for being yourself.
We are going to take you to where you want to go and beyond.
Heels, lashes, wig.
I think somebody's feeling it, girl.
I just want to be who the hell I am without hating myself.
One day while the light is glowing.
The amount of love that you have for your brother, for you to take a walk in his shoes, that's going to be a huge moment.
I don't want the audience thinking that I'm pretending to be something I'm not, when really I'm becoming something that I am.
The hit HBO show We're Here has been entertaining us and making us cry a lot for 2 years now. The show features real-life drag makeovers in small American communities and often shows individuals facing discrimination at work, in their communities, and even in their own homes. Currently, season 3 is filming, and this month, the show faced backlash from a local government that didn't want LGBTQ plus involvement in their community. During filming in the small Utah town of St. George, community members expressed distress that the show's family-friendly drag show would be performed in the heart of the city near areas children are frequently found. The episode chronicles fallout from an LGBTQ plus related incident at a local school as well.
Okay, so it's 2 months since Safe Schools had the brouhaha with Miami-Dade County Public Schools over hosting our Empowerment Day because we had a drag MC. We continue to fight with them. There's a story coming out in the Miami New Times tomorrow. Basically, Miami-Dade has doubled down on saying that a drag host or hostess is inappropriate for a kid's type of event, and it's just this is just going to get. We're marginalizing marginalizing the drag community as if they're not one of us.
Scott, Executive Director of Safe Schools South Florida, help us understand why Miami-Dade County Schools comes to this conclusion. What is it about drag that brings them to this conclusion?
They said there was nothing educationally valid. I can't think of the exact term that they used. If we were to have had a business person or maybe just a regular old trans person, would that have been something they opposed? They didn't have an answer for that when I asked them. So they basically said that there's just no, nothing of educational value in having a drag hostess, even though we had Showtime there. The State Senator Jones moderated a panel. It was a fantastic event, and because there was a drag hostess, Dade County Public Schools, this liberal bastion, right?
Well, and there's the second question I wanted to ask you from your expertise. You're the expert witness, the lawyer that plays one on television, brings in the expert witness, which is what you are on school LGBTQ issues. In this instance, Miami-Dade County to the whole rest of the nation is a steadfast blue island, not only in Ron DeSantis' state, but in the world of GOP and evangelicals. Miami-Dade County is not this. How, in that environment, do they come to that conclusion? Why in Miami-Dade County is this happening?
I don't have insight into what they're saying behind closed doors. They've strictly given out, their attorneys have strictly given direction to their employees to clam up and not talk about anything because there's a lawsuit that's out there. I really don't know why they don't answer any questions. Even groups like Equality Florida and PFLAG of South Miami, we're all running up against this brick wall when dealing with Dade County Public Schools. They tell us there'll be a legal opinion put forward sometime in August before school starts, but give no indication about what that's going to be.
Forgive me, another question related to what you've said, because it's the same issue that we're here is exploring and what they did in St. George, Utah. Do you feel like you're getting the kind of attention and support from LGBTQ South Florida, our advocacy organizations, et cetera, to help get in the fight here with Safe Schools South Florida?
We will, because I know how to motivate some people when necessary. I've tried to let Dade schools have their opportunity to assess, come up with a story, and then come back at it. I've not gone to the media, so to speak, even though the story is coming out tomorrow. They just noticed some chatter. The reporter just noticed some chatter online about it all. You can bet I'm going to be, hooking in the Save Dades of South Florida to take a stand on this when necessary, but I don't want it to become that. I don't want to be seen as that guy who picks a fight on everything that comes along. So, right now it's sort of limited to the youth organizations, and in our case, because we had a drag hostess.
Forgive me, and I apologize. I have really unique opportunity to ask Scott questions relating to we're here in this story that we're telling right now, what's happening in St. George, Utah. I just want to draw the comparison that I see. Miami-Dade County is this bastion blue county, 3.5 million people, which is more people than I think all of Utah combined. St. George is a tiny little. It's Opelika, Alabama. Opelika in South Florida in size. It's very, very small. Southwest Utah, but it is dominated by the Mormon Church. And so there is a conservative, evangelical, if you call Mormons evangelical, attitude against a simple show like we're here coming to St. George. Not in terms of doing anything, even your presence.
Just being there and breathing.
Town. Breathe in our town, we object. It's interesting to me that you draw the parallel that is going on in this tiny little Mormon town in Southwest Utah and Miami-Dade County, which are completely different, but coming to the exact same conclusion.
Yeah.
That's shocking to me.
Yeah. I think it will be shocking to everybody once the story makes the rounds. It's it's incredibly disappointing. It's hurtful, and it was a magnificent event that had all of the educational value you could imagine, but Dade schools refused to publicize it.
I'm curious, Broad, out of the Safe Schools story. Anyone watching We're Here yet?
Oh, yeah. I love We're Here. I'm addicted. Listen, I'm addicted.
All right. Well, we got to get that in.
No, of course, because that was the story, right, folks? No, but I mean, Eureka, Bob the drag queen, Shangela, they do an incredible job. I'm not a crier, okay? I'm that lesbian. I don't cry. I am bawling at every episode of We're Here.
And you have to remember, Faye says that because she surgically had her tear ducts removed.
It just makes it easier to be mean all the time. You know what I mean? And I mean, no, but this show, and they've gotten backlash in other places, Al Ferguson, not just there, in Selma. They've gone to other places that, and they've fought back and they've still had their event. And, and they've brought money to these small communities as well when you go and you film somewhere, So they're in season 3. I see them having this show for a lot more years and representing us in all these little small towns and getting backlash somewhere else, and they'll fight back.
And the ironic thing is when these small towns protest, they're giving the producers exactly what they want.
Yeah.
It makes for better television. They need the yin to the yang, the push to the back,
Right.
So it makes for better television, but it's very heartwarming. It really is. And if I went on so many medications, I'd cry too.
Yeah.
I just make one other comparison. Bob the drag queen and Eureka and going to St. George and fighting. And we're going to fight. We don't care what you think. We're still going to fight because we're going to be present is exactly what we hear Scott Galvin's going to do in Miami Beach or in Miami-Dade County. He hasn't had to get to the stage of that fight, but you hear it coming.
Yep.
Yeah, you hear it coming. So it's a similar approach. And one other thing that I want to say related to personal nature of the show, I cheer for Shangela in this show. Shangela is absolutely outstanding in this show. Sometime I'll have to show you a video. Shangela appeared on the RuPaul cruise many, many times, did many shows on the RuPaul cruise. And I have a video where Willem and Shangela and I rode up the mountain on mules in Santorini, Greece.
Up.
While they were, the mules had bells on their necks, and the two of them are singing Ring My Bell all the way.
Oh my God, I gotta see that.
I have it. I love Shangela. You're doing magnificent in this show. You're holding the whole LGBTQ community up proudly.
I have a really bad crush on her, like really bad. Like I've had sex dreams about Shangela and
Wow.
everything. Yeah, it's one of those.
He's prettier as a man than he is as a drag queen. Yeah. Love Shangela.
Love you, baby. Moving on, we queer up South Florida gay news. The fight continues as Don't Say Gay becomes law. Next Friday, July 1st, Republicans will once again score political points at the expense of LGBTQ plus youth when the odious Don't Say Gay bill goes into effect. This feels like a tragedy in slow motion. Introduced in January, rallied against in February, passed in March, and signed by April. There will be fights in the court and in the court of public opinion. But the fact is, this is happening. And it's happening the moment Pride Month ends. Aside from the hatefulness of the bill, one of the biggest takeaways of the debate was Disney not fighting against it until it was too late. Now PRISM, an organization focused on helping LGBTQ plus youth, is calling on companies to be our allies beyond Pride Month. PRISM founder and Queer News Tonight contributor Max Fenning told me, quote, "It's time for companies to put their money where their mouth is, and that means supporting us all year long," end quote. This week, they launched a social media campaign, #StayGay, to hold corporations accountable so that our dollars don't find their way into the coffers of our enemies. And that story will be published tomorrow in this week's South Florida Gay News on stands and online. And they launched on the 20th, which I believe was Monday. They got their launch video on TikTok, got nearly 35,000 views in the first 24 hours. So off and running, off and running.
I love Max.
Max has a great talent, and this can't be underestimated as a talent. A great talent for social media, for timing, for combining the subject matter. Sometimes it's silly, sometimes it's personal. And I follow. I'm looking at most stuff that he does, and Prism is really, to be commended for their leadership in tackling this.
Yeah, and what is he, 20? Jesus, imagine what he's going to do when he's 25. I mean, I love Max. So, and something else about this story. Do we think it would have made a difference if Disney would have stood up for us beforehand?
No.
I think possibly. You don't think three votes could have moved? You don't think three votes could have moved in the Senate?
No. They are such a machine, party line.
And in addition to that, I agree with you on that. And in addition to that, Ron DeSantis has a lock on the conservative and GOP. The entire state of Florida is fearful of Ron DeSantis. He has definitely eclipsed Donald Trump. One of the ramifications of the January 6 hearings is Donald Trump is going to come out of the hearings mortally wounded.
Yeah.
And the person that's going to step in is Ron DeSantis. And everyone in Florida of any political means in the GOP know that, and there's no opposing Ron DeSantis now. The only thing that's going to stop him is the possibility of the electoral vote in the midterm in governor, which is very tenuous at best in percentages. If you were in Las Vegas, I'm not even sure a casino would take the odds.
Oh, wow.
And then the only other opportunity to stop the Ron DeSantis train is 2024 when he runs for president of the United States.
Wow. And now it's time to queer up gay culture. Elon Musk has a super bad feeling. Then Tesla lays off LGBTQ+ and diversity leaders. It was reported that earlier this month, Elon Musk told Tesla executives that he had, quote, super bad feeling, end quote, about the economy and wanted to lay off 10% of the company's workforce. Those layoffs have been rolled out, and the president of the company's LGBTQ community program, as well as one of the leads of the diversity and inclusion program, were included in the cuts. Insiders say that many of the other employees of those programs were cut, and cite a tweet last month where Elon Musk wrote, quote, unless it's stopped, the work mind virus will destroy civilization and humanity will never reach Mars, end quote.
You know, we've given Elon Musk so much airtime the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, we just have. You know, when he said, oh, I'm going to buy Twitter and all that crap, right? But I mean, he's not well. Like, the guy is just not well. It's one day after another
There's
doing
your
some
answer.
crazy
We
stuff.
report on crazy.
Yeah.
We do.
And
we
report up front.
Yeah. Right.
I've often said, if it weren't for crazy and stupid people, I'd have never had a career.
That rings so true to me.
But you know what? Here's the thing, is that diversity doesn't generate visible revenue. We all know if diversity makes companies stronger, you get better employees, which makes for more revenue, but it doesn't generate something on the spreadsheet that you can look at. Also, Elon Musk is, as we're finding out, this idiotic conservative, but he has a product that liberals love and really, really want to spend their money on. So he's kind of like cornered a market. Now he's like, well, now I've got all your money, so now I'm going to take your freedoms. I'm going to take over more of your world.
And it's not just electric cars. It's space also. He's dangling in front of us so many things that we just can't take our eyes off of. And we'll go, I wonder, are we going to go, well, we'll forgive all of these bad things because you're dangling this in front of me. Right. I want to ask you, Kal, because you're one of our resident business experts. I've talked about your path so many times. What's your reaction about what Elon Musk said, waking up one morning and going, I've got a bad feeling, I've got a bad gut feeling, let's cut 10% of our entire workforce at Tesla, and then not taking the time to ensure LGBT and your diversity leadership stays without being cut in the 10%. What was your reaction on that?
It's interesting because I understand it from a business perspective, because just like what John was saying, I lead our diversity and inclusion chapter at our company, and I oversee all of our internal and external communications. However, at the end of the day, our division doesn't generate any revenue. So if there are cuts to be made, that's the first thing that organizations will look at. They will look at the departments, they will look at the people who are directly tied to the bottom line, and those people are going to get cuts. And it's just purely, I would hope, just a business decision, and not because, oh, you know, we don't need diversity, we don't need inclusion, you know, we don't need LGBT workforce. It just happens to be a lot of those employees are LGBT, and it happens to be Pride Month, you know, so it's just not a good scenario all around.
Come on, just the other day, he just said pronouns suck. I mean, like, he's not well. He's just not well. The guy needs some help.
And he also is paying the hardest price of all. He lost a child. His daughter disowned him this week very publicly on Twitter. And that to me is the gut check.
How many employees in your entire corporate structure?
We're about 2,000.
Okay, and so you're leading the LGBT diversity arm. Does your gut from your seat, I know it's a crystal ball, your crystal ball is no better than anyone else's crystal ball, but does the crystal ball, when you look into it about what's going on with Elon Musk, from crazy to the various things that are going on that we've watched him say and do over the last couple of months, does your gut tell you that he's committed to diversity or he's not committed?
I don't think he cares. I think he's reached a level of just success and just money, and anything he does is he's just going to get money from it. So he's, you know, paid no matter what. I think what happens is that I feel as though we had reached a part in our business world that it was okay to be gay in corporate America and to be out. For instance, we're running a month-long campaign in our organization, you know, about employee spotlights and spotlighting our employees who are part of the LGBTQ plus community and also allies. And funny enough, we've actually gotten more people to do employee spotlights as allies than we have as LGBTQ plus employees, because they're still afraid to identify themselves as being part of the community. Even though we promote a company culture of being your authentic self every single day, there are still a lot of people who are fearful of that. And I feel like episodes like this will cause people to be like, okay, I don't want to be out at work anymore.
Yeah.
For the fear of, you know, you're just going to get laid off or fired.
That's incredibly sad to me, and I would think, you know, I'm never going to understand Elon Musk's life, but I can tell you for sure, a statistical fact, if he backs out of the Twitter deal, he's going to lose $1 billion as a penalty. Wow. When somebody is capable of losing, I cancel my home or car contract and lose $1 billion, you're in a class where you're beyond.
You're by yourself
that
in that
we
class.
can understand.
Right. Yeah.
And he loses his daughter this week in the LGBTQ community, where she, as John said, publicly says, I no longer want to be associated with my father.
Changed her last name and all.
Right.
To not even reflect being her father's daughter.
You would think Al, as billionaire, willing to lose $1 billion just for canceling a contract and going to spend $35 billion if I pay for the contract, that I would be worrying about more things than a bit of money of 10% of my workforce. I would worry about my child who is rejecting me. And that perhaps is the crazy that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, now let's queer up gay culture. Russian war crimes against LGBTQ plus Ukrainians are, quote, worse than people can imagine, unquote. As the war in Ukraine continues, reports of war crimes committed by Russia are pouring in. A U.S. investigator known as Captain Pegleg spoke with LGBTQ plus nations saying, quote, let's talk about a couple of issues that may be of interest to your publication. Male-on-male rape and plans to hunt down and execute gays, lesbians, and anyone different. From just what I've seen, there's a vile anti-gay agenda, which has included desires and plans to, and how do I put this nicely, to castrate and kill gay men. I'd almost call it a hunt in one of the situations I'm aware of, and what I've been briefed on and what we are trying to do is destigmatize the fear out of being gay, out of being lesbian, so they aren't afraid of speaking to Ukrainian authorities as witnesses, unquote.
It's just heartbreaking. We knew there was horrible stuff going on, but then to actually have somebody say it and detail it. You know, I had read a story recently about lesbians that were caught and they were raped in front of their partners. And that's just a normal Tuesday that's going on there to our people over there in the Ukraine. And it's just, it's heartbreaking. We really have no idea.
But how far are we from that in the United States with this culture of anger and hatred toward gays that we've created, not our creating, it's there now. So, you know, how much longer is it going to be before some act of violence is committed against, you know, LGBTQ American, and everybody just sort of goes,
Yeah, and just a reminder, it began on June 12th, 2016 at Pulse nightclub at 2:02 a.m.
Yeah.
That was a religious motivated attack on LGBTQ that killed 49 and injured 51. It began on that day.
And I'm sorry, and to your point, Texas GOP just put this in their platform. Many of these ideas, there's these things that are actually happening. There are people in Texas and throughout the country, I'm sure, that are saying, yes, execute the gays. We did a story on this a couple weeks ago where a preacher at a strip mall church was saying this. So these things aren't just abstract ideas or in third world parts of the country. These are now in the third world parts of America, but they're making their way into the mainstream, including legitimate political discourse like the Texas GOP platform.
A week, I just remind everybody, a week before Russia invaded Ukraine, the State Department issued an advisory summary report of their concern that among the hardest hit on a potential Russian invasion was going to be the LGBTQ community. And the State Department warned via the White House messaging that the possibility of atrocities would take place. Now, months into this, we are hearing and seeing the atrocities taking place. One of the things that was exceptionally disturbing to me on this report that LGBTQ Nation received, and congratulations to you, it's a great story that's important for us to hear and understand, is male-on-male rape. Horrific in the examples of the two lesbian partners, and there's been multiple examples of that. But male-on-male rape of Russian soldiers raping Ukrainian gay men seems to me, wait, you're having gay sex. And it's the testament of what doesn't exist in Russia. And Moscow says there is no homosexuality in Russia, but those same people are committing male-on-male rape. It is homosexuality, and it's an atrocity, and it is a war crime. And sooner or later, hopefully not the later, and hopefully the sooner, people are going to pay for the war crimes that are committed, and we're watching it. The other thing that I think is important that disturbs me a little is that we are not talking about it. In the LGBTQ community in America, it is understandable because our plate is pretty full with the hate that we're experiencing in different ways. But still, this is something that I think should be in front of us and we should be talking about, because there are multiple places in this world where LGBT brothers and sisters and cousins are under horrific treatment, even to the point of death. Afghanistan being one of the leading examples. And I think our responsibility in our community is at least to be talking about it and acknowledging it. And I'm concerned we're not doing enough of that.
Because it's not happening here. Because it's not under our noses. That's why we're not talking about it.
And I hate that conclusion. I think that is logically the conclusion, and our plate is very full. But I still hate that, because if we faced something terrible, which might be coming, frankly, from the Supreme Court or radical GOP expansion in the House or the Senate, or a president of the United States, even worse than what we saw from Donald Trump. Donald Trump was ignorant and bad. We may be seeing on the horizon someone that is an evil genius and bad. And we'll want the world to call attention to our plight if that comes to us. We have an obligation to call at hand the plight of what we're watching in Ukraine.
Next, we report on our partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We're broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine in supporting that partnership. Happening Out Television Network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ+ religious live broadcast in the world, as more than 30,000 watch every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Watch this.
Kiara Johnson, the Executive Director of the National LGBTQ Task Force. And as one of the most important civil rights organizations, I know the value of the support that comes from all corners of our community. That's why Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Love you, Kiara Johnson. So that is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show. I ask you, is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share the news with your friends and family, especially the ones in rural Utah.
Post this broadcast in the many groups that you're a member of. Tonight's stories about our community deserve the attention of your friends and family.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
And if our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these type of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. And that is the passion of the Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat, John Hayden, Kal Gajraj, Scott Galvin, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now.